The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party Podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times with Good People company, the host, or its sponsors.
It's not getting in.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. You ready? All right. Hey, out there in podcast land, it's your boy Rio, and I'm here, and let's introduce today's panel. First, our returning champion, Chris O'Connor. He is, of course, the owner of Liquor 9 Entertainment and Investments, as well as having interest in Rigger Whiskey and Office Works. The anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. And after a long, and I do mean long, hiatus, my brother, and by my brother I do mean another black guy, Camden Fells, and he is a wealth manager, and he's going to be joining us today as we are doing Loft Party episode 56, 45's Worst 100 Days. But before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, I will start with, I think I started with Chris last time, so I will start with the anonymous female, which she hates. But I'm going to start because I'm going in the correct order. Would you rather have a personal chef or personal masseuse?
Personal masseuse. Because I like to cook.
It is true.
That is hands down, no contest for me.
It is true. For you do
every day. I could deal with that.
Personal chef.
Personal chef.
Yeah, I just think that just screams luxury. I like luxury.
It does.
Yeah, so that's what I would pick.
I'm definitely a chef. I've only always in my life wanted a driver and a chef. I just thought it'd be so fun, you know. But yeah, definitely a chef.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to choose one.
That's actually a hard one for me.
Yeah.
Because not that I can't sustain life by putting some food together, but I'm not a cook. But being somebody that goes and gets reasonably regular massages, having a personal masseuse. That whole idea is super dope, and because I could always go out to eat if I needed to, but that personal masseuse, man, that's the thing that's hard to get rid of, at least for me. You were gonna say? No?
That was it.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I'll go the other way around with the insanely vain question. Do you consider yourself hot?
Oh, definitely.
I was just going to say, anybody that answers that is really conceited.
I would say.
But that is not true. I don't think Chris
I would
is
say
conceited.
but I think I'm going to look at it. I think it takes a lot of work to stay that way. I put a lot of time and effort into trying to look my best. So yeah, of course.
That's a big question. I don't know.
Mr. Fells?
I don't know that I consider myself hot, but I would consider myself to be desirable in as it relates to dating. I'm taken right now. It will be for a very
If you're
long
listening
time.
out there, if you're listening out there, he's taken. And if you're listening out there, he stepped up. He did the right thing right away. There was no prompting. You know who I'm talking to.
Right. Well, here's the deal. Like my mother, she gave me all these lessons. You know, my mother was kind of like my dad too. And she says, Camden, it's okay, you know, while you're young to date and all that, and that's all great. But she says, the whole purpose of dating is to gather information. And then as you get into your 30s, you should have been able to gather enough information to be able to be chosen. You should be a commodity. You should be something that's desirable. And so if you're doing too much chasing, you might have to reevaluate. As a man, as far as I'm concerned, you might have to reevaluate, your approach.
I'm not reevaluating.
Well, you're just hot, Chris. We're not talking about that.
but you.
I'm talking to the masses.
You have one up on the rest of us.
Yeah.
You're hot. That's it.
Yeah. And very desirable, I might add. A very successful man.
Successful man.
Yeah.
All of the above.
So,
Lena was female.
I don't consider myself hot, but I don't think I'm ugly. I think I'm all right. I'm all right.
God. What a classic understatement.
I know she's putting on the full extra modest as she's blushing in the whole 9 yards.
All right, go on.
I have said on many occasions I do not think I am the finest dude in the world. I do think I'm probably the coolest dude in about 6 states, though. But I kind of look at it the way you do, Cam, and that I've tried to gather enough information to make myself into a desirable person. So, I guess more than hot, quote unquote, I guess desirable would be a better word, and or at least I hope so. Anyway, so with the games played, the ice broken, let's get into our RIPs for this week. So first, director Jonathan Demme. I saw that he passed away at age of 73. And you were saying earlier what movies you remember him.
Silence of the Lambs was the big one.
Yeah.
That one was amazing. But there's a very long list that you could go through between him and his brother, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
I forget he has a famous brother who's a director as well. So another one of those kind of incredible families who just were very artistic and both achieved massive success. That's early to go. So everything's early to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
What is his brother's name again?
Ted.
Ted Demme. That's right. And the other that I noticed, he didn't pass.
Oh, I'm surprised you don't know. Philadelphia, the Manchurian Candidate.
oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, some of my more favorite movies, yeah.
Shots Fired.
Wait, the TV show Shots Fired?
Yeah.
Wow.
He directed at least one episode.
Okay, all right.
I don't really know. I'm not a big movie buff, but the fact that we're sitting here talking about this gentleman lets me know that he's had quite a legacy, and I really admire people that have, kind of put themselves in a position to be able to be remembered. Because,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of folks just kind of leave and nobody ever really knows about them. So,
never knew you were here. Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because he did Justin Timberlake and the Tennessee Kids tour video that they did on Netflix.
on Netflix.
He did that, too.
Okay.
And some other musicians.
Are those all directing credits, or some of them were producing credits?
No, those
too,
were
right?
all directing.
And then you should have a lot of producing credits.
It's
too.
separate.
Like
I'm looking it up on IMDb, so they've got the producing credits. He's got several.
I mean, it's ridiculous the stuff that he's gotten behind and back. And
Yeah, it says he's got 61 director credits and 44 producer credits and 11 writer credits.
He's had quite a career. The one thing that I did want to mention that we didn't mention before, and to tell you the truth, I just completely missed it. Cuba Gooding Sr. Passed away at 72. I think he passed away on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason that, ladies and gentlemen out there in podcast land, we did not think he was coming, but we have just been joined by Big Dave Elliott. And of course, he is the owner of C&P Construction. Before we get too far, did you get your mom picked up from the airport?
No,
Okay.
Mom is an hour late.
Oh, okay.
So I have 15 to 20 minutes to get my point across.
Oh, well, you better
So
hurry up.
I am here literally to terrorize,
Okay.
do damage,
Okay.
and then leave. These are things I'm very good at.
Okay. All right. So luckily, we've already gotten past the party game questions, and we're on the end of our RIPs. So you'll be able to jump in much sooner than later.
That's a good thing.
So Cuba Gooding Sr., like I say, passed away at 72. And for anybody out there who did not know that Cuba Gooding's father was famous, he is the guy who was the lead singer on the hit song Everybody Plays
Sing
a
it.
Fool. Everybody plays a fool
Right.
sometimes. There you go. There you go.
That's old school, baby.
I
Yeah.
have that on my eye.
You know what? I bet you do.
In my case, everybody plays the fool most of the time, but it makes for life a lot more fun.
Hey, that is definitely
That rendition might become my ringtone.
that is definitely the truth. And so,
So in tune.
with all that being said, are you sure you don't want to answer the party game questions before we get started? He is perusing the party game questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Would you rather have a personal chef or a personal masseuse?
Yes.
You know, I'm kind of a foodie.
Okay. All right, personal.
And
chef.
I'm getting old enough where the masseuse ain't going to do no good anymore. On any way you want to play it, you know, whether you get a happy ending or not, ain't going to
quite do it.
I want to eat that food. And would you consider yourself hot?
Yes.
Well, one thing I can say about that.
You know what? This question was picked purely for Dave because I wanted to hear what you were going to say.
I have one thing that a lot of other men don't have at my age.
Okay.
Hair.
This is true. This is true.
I have good looking hair.
And,
Yeah, you have nice
And I will
soft
say
hair.
this much. I go in bars, and I get talking to the ladies, and the ladies start messing with my hair. So is that a sign that you're hot?
well, I will say this out there, ladies and gentlemen, because you can't see
Or are
him.
they looking for lice?
He does have a
Dave
very
has
thick,
a full head of very nice salt and pepper hair.
Silver hair.
Yeah, he is definitely a silver hair fox, as they would say. So, with all that said, here we go.
Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/LoftPartyPodcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
'45's worst 100 days. First, we're going to talk about the campaign promises, aka fake news. So, I was looking at what did I do with them? Because
I left Michelle downstairs drinking.
oh, okay, all right. I actually printed a bunch of stuff out because there was so much to sift through. There was so much to sift through with the first 100 days. And
I have
While you're sorting through, let me interject something.
please. Yeah, here we go.
Well, you're calling it the worst 100. I'd say,
Well, that's just the name of the episode.
I'd say for 100 days the man's been very active. I think he's found out that the
been
job's a
active,
little
all right.
harder than he thought he was, and it's a little bit more difficult to work with people, but he has done a lot of good things. It's interesting who he's met with world leaders in particular. It's just not the agenda that he's trying to set up for the country. It's also what he's trying to do to position us in the world. Now, I'm not mean to pick on Obama, but Trump met with al-Sisi, and I got a little bit of knowledge of Egypt. Trump met with Muslim Brotherhood. When I was in Egypt, Anwar Sadat got assassinated right after it by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So, he's trying to align himself with people so that he's got a coalition of people out there that he can work with. And I think they're doing a fairly good job at it. I think Rex Tillerson is an excellent Secretary of State so far. I think he speaks well. They've learned to work from a position of strength without overdoing that position of strength. And of course, Trump is a fireballer, so he's always going to throw the fireball out there and then rescind it, which is what he did with NAFTA.
I was going to tweet it. And then
Or tweet it, whatever, but it's still the fireball. I mean, a lot of people don't like Trump, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to categorize him as a Republican. Trump is not. Trump is this hybrid dude. He's really not any party, and that's why the Republicans don't always like him, the Democrats don't always like him. He's a totally different animal we've never seen before, as far as president goes. And I think they need to give him a little bit more time to see what he can do. Because he's got a lot of things. 89%, and this is a fact, 89% of the media gives him a tough time compared to 11% that gives him favorable reviews. That's a pretty tough go. I mean, everybody in the world's against Trump. The media's against Trump. Everybody's against Trump. And Trump still sits out there and trucks along every day and tries to say, that's a fact. I read that.
You don't think he plays a role in that? I mean, is he doing
Absolutely.
anything on earth to ingratiate himself with the media? He calls them all liars. He talks about how shitty their ratings are.
But they love him to death.
The media?
Oh, yeah, they love him to death because he gives them something to do every day.
No. I think,
Absolutely he does.
I think Rupert Murdoch likes him a lot because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
saying how Fox's ratings after Bill O'Reilly just got the boot for sexual harassment again.
Well, I think CNN, MSNBC, I've been watching all that. They all dig him, man. They got somebody to punk on every single damn day. Because somebody in his administration has said something, or he said something. Somebody's always said something that they can go find a punk on.
Listen, talking about him in terms of entertainment for ratings is not the same thing as being a good president.
I didn't say that.
Making good decisions. I understand what you said. So, while I would agree with you that overall cable nightly news ratings are up, they couldn't help it because they were minuscule earlier. The highest rated show drew 4 million people a night, so big deal. And that dude just got the boot. So, we'll see what happens. But in terms of the way he treats them, it's ridiculous. His press briefings are just nonsense. I love the one where Sean Spicer got the note right in the middle of the press conference and had to retract everything he just said. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Stunningly disorganized, and that's what makes it fun. You're just watching a circus, and people love to see the circus.
Was Bill Clinton organized his first 100 days? I'd
Hell
say
yeah.
no. It was kind of chaotic.
I thought he actually did pretty well because he was working with the Democratic Congress and Senate, did well. Trump should be far more organized at this point than he is.
I probably wouldn't disagree. I think that's his downfall.
It's ridiculous.
But I think he has elected a good cabinet.
I'll give him credit for who I do like is Nikki Haley. I think she's done a tremendous job with the UN. And Tillerson
I get
has
that.
been bad. But when you say he's met with these world leaders, he's made a mockery of himself with a lot of these world leaders. They hate his guts. I wouldn't call it coalition building. I'd say pissing off almost all of our best friends. I think he's done a horrible job. And I think people...
Yeah, like what was the deal with him not wanting to shake the hand with the German chancellor? And
it's just...
in Germany, it has been one of our stronger allies.
Yeah, they've had to be. I mean, my God, their economy's booming and they control basically Europe at this point. Not to say that Britain doesn't have a major role, but clearly Germany is the economic engine of Europe right now.
I think, though, it was a really bad...
Yeah.
I mean, he's on television, live television. She even leans over and says, want to shake hands? And he totally ignores her.
Right, I agree.
I'm like, that's a slap in the face.
Especially when you have a reputation for being a complete sexist asshole.
Exactly.
My God, I mean, come on.
I'm glad that a guy said that.
Since we're on the subject of economy, I don't, on purpose, I don't pay a lot of attention to politics because I try to go off the numbers in my line of work, but Trump has been good for markets. I mean, markets are at all-time highs. People are feeling more optimistic. We've seen a lot of money flood in
They're spending their money.
behind this
Money's getting
campaign.
released.
And this is in no way is a recommendation for investments or anything like that. Got to put that out there. But if you look at the momentum of money going into the markets, I could easily see this market going to 22,000 on the Dow, 23,000 on the Dow. If you look at the numbers, though, it shows that markets are overbought.
Yeah.
So people are just enthusiastically putting money in because they think it's going higher.
Which always leads to a downfall. There could be
Right.
a
So
separate
I would
Which
say
is what I was about to say.
So what I would say is it's the same thing I'd say when President Obama was in. I mean, how much can you change the direction of an economy in 4 years or 8 years? At some point, the chickens have to come back home to roost. We spent a lot of money. We printed a lot of money. Nations around the world have printed a lot of money. You know, do we revert back to the mean in the near term, or do we continue to go higher and then it's, you know, kind of even worse as it goes down? We're up about 215% on the stock market since March 9, 2009, which is the you know, where things kind of bounce back, and we haven't had any hesitation. So anybody
Wait, say that again, because I think a lot of people
I should say
don't really realize that from that point in 2009, we've had a steady increase monthly.
with no digestion.
All through the Obama years.
Yeah.
So this is not like suddenly Trump got in office and bam.
Right.
It was, he got in office, and I think, honestly, I believe he got in office and people with a lot of money were like, shit, yeah. And they're flooding.
Institutional investors.
And sure, and he's made a lot of policies that are supportive of the markets. Like he's talking about, I don't know if it's actually through, but cutting corporate taxes down to 15%, which would be huge for earnings.
Not even just
companies.
corporate taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was for all businesses.
Sure.
I have some rather wealthy clients in town, and I've talked to them about some of this stuff. Is that, you know, we kind of sat on our money during the Obama years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Now they're putting
on the other hand, they didn't blame it on all Obama because it came out of Bush's years, and
Right.
Obama had to try to get everything moving again. So let me throw that out there real quick. It's not that they're blaming Obama, but they also didn't fully trust him either. So it was a little bit of a combination deal that I don't know if this guy's going to pull this out. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. And they do feel like they can turn their money loose a little bit now. They're investing more. They're doing more. All the small business people that I do business with are more optimistic that we're likely to have a better go at it for a while. Like we're able to make money. Our labor shortages are showing up and saying that's the same thing. So it's an interesting dynamic in that aspect.
Labor shortage is such a weird metric, because really what you're measuring is people who are looking for jobs who are not getting them. You're not counting people who have left the workforce entirely.
Like the one that
and
worked
is
for me
giving
for
up.
2 hours this morning.
I'm telling you, I mean, there's a lot of those people around who don't get counted in the mix, and so you don't really have a true gauge of what employment was. I mean, Obama used it to his favor as well, but I think you largely had a fairly, especially at the start, a fairly jobless recovery for a long time. Then jobs started picking up once people started feeling more stable, and now I fear that we're getting so overinflated, you're going to start seeing a necessary correction, which is going to happen. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens to jobs.
One big study that came out in 2000 at the beginning of the year is a lot of the big Wall Street firms came out and said, you know, going forward over the next 10 to 15 years, because of all the spending and the printing of money that we've had, that, you know, going forward, they're calling for about a 6% rate of return on the S&P 500 if you look at a 60-40 portfolio. And the argument for that is that we've stolen future returns cleaning up the 2008 crisis. And so if you factor in that most investment managers are going to charge you around 1.5% for their fee to manage your money, that leaves an investor at about 5.5%. So if you look at the demographics and how many people we've got retiring and people that are kind of needing to count on that money, can't go through another 2008 event, you know, this may be a time to start carving away a little bit, even though things look great and, you know, kind of frothy here.
So before we say anything else, let me let everybody out there in podcast land know we have just been joined by a friend of the podcast, Lane Boland.
What's up?
So we were talking about the first 100 days.
Oh.
And
I heard Cam preaching the language.
Yeah. I'm about to say, so we were at this point talking about just
Finally, we're talking about
just
money.
from a financial standpoint.
We were talking about taxes.
Yeah,
and,
what has happened?
and the market.
What has happened, or what has the possibility of happening with the Trump presidency, and you having some unique perspective. You have anything you want to add to this part of the show?
Yeah, I just came in on the backside of what Cam was saying. What was the gist of that?
Well, he was just basically saying that the markets have been up.
Yeah.
Money's let loose.
Oh,
Yeah.
the smart money's already left the market. Yeah. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah. Oh, the smart money's in cash right now.
If you look at the multiples, it's ridiculous.
Because they're preparing for the crash because
Right.
it's overinflated.
Right. There's only one asset class there, podcast land, that actually improves with inflation. And we had Cam talking about the massive printing of money that leads to inflation.
Yes.
So if you need stock market-like returns that isn't going to get decimated by inflation, your only safe haven right now is real estate.
I will say this about my friends, my clients that I've been talking to that are wealthy. They're operating on cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are definitely operating on cash. They've had enough cash stored back during the recession. They just sat on it.
Yeah.
They had an investor where it made some money, but they aren't playing the market that much. They're investing in real estate, and this is all where every single one of them are heading.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
clearly
some
people
of
are
them are
playing the
building
market.
warehouses. You know, some are they're doing a lot of different things.
I'm net short the market right now.
It's probably, honestly, the smartest place to be.
So that's kind of interesting that you say that
Yeah.
because that's something I noticed they have. So I keep trying to give me more of their cash, but I'm working on it.
You could go back to 2001 and just remember how overvalued things
Right,
got.
right.
Guys,
We're higher on the Dow today than we were then. I mean,
Yeah,
much
absolutely,
higher.
much higher.
Absolutely higher.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I guess okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I know where this is going. Mr. Trump unveiling his tax plan and how that's allegedly going to give the next leg to the recovery from the 2008 recession. That is not going to get it done. What's going to get it done? The tax issue, all that's going to. Let's just set that aside for a minute. With taxation, all that's doing is carving up the same pie. Right?
Yes.
Right. What grows the pie is playing with consumer demand and with the interest rate, credit.
Right.
Well, we've had record low interest rates, but that money is not getting into the hands of the people that actually build the economy, aka the consumers and the small business owners.
Right.
Right. Because of the onerous restrictions placed on us by the Dodd-Frank Act. So what I'm getting at is if this is a very
Well, there's been talk of redoing the Dodd-Frank Act too, correct?
I know, but in terms of priority, it should be
doesn't get passed.
fix the credit markets, right? Then let's look at tax reform. But even then, let's fix the credit markets. Let's spend some money on infrastructure, and then let's look at tax reform. If you really want to engender,
The only other
Well, he said something interesting right there. Yeah. Real quick, he said something interesting there. I do not understand why they haven't tackled infrastructure yet because I think that's the first real bipartisan thing that he can go get. I think he can go grab Chuck Schumer. I think he can grab Ryan.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question.
It's done. I think that's a win for him.
Well, let me ask you this question. When
You're talking about like financial
Highways.
or
Highways.
Highways,
they've been doing
bridges.
that.
Oh,
They've-
highways and bridges,
Yeah,
Infrastructure needs done.
Yeah.
They've been
We need
doing
toll
that.
roads, not to the
We're
point where
still
they
so
need
much more.
At a
There
fraction
is, but
Yeah.
it's not like they haven't been doing it.
well, I guess my question is
I think that's
when President Obama was trying to go after
Right.
money for infrastructure.
Right.
And he received the obstruction that he received. So it's not going to cost less
Right.
to do infrastructure now than it would have 8 years ago.
It'll cost more.
Actually, it costs more.
Exactly. So.
Guys,
So the reasons that the Republicans at the time gave for not wanting to put more money into it was because it was going to raise the deficit. So, isn't that still true?
Yeah.
Won't it still raise it? Now I agree.
Yeah.
We do need to put money into infrastructure. I do think that those putting that money into infrastructure will put people to work that will put money back into the economy. I definitely agree with that. But wasn't that true 8 years ago?
But and then all the Democrats going to turn around and be obstructions again, just to say,
Well,
well, you did it, so we're going to do it. Is that?
guys?
They
Is
don't
that-
do
is
that. They don't do that on everything.
Well, I'm just saying, is that where we're at? Is this
I
where-
will- I hope not.
I don't think
You know,
so.
because
But
that
I
doesn't
think
take care of we the people, and that's the main problem. We the people are getting pissed.
I'll admit the whole infrastructure thing is kind of a red herring, and that's kind of like pushing a string, kind of like tax reform. It's all by itself, so I can get the job done. Circling back, I'm about to commit an act of heresy as a capitalist by saying the fastest way we can engender growth is twofold. One, make it easier for businesses and consumers to borrow money. Two, bump the minimum wage. Bump the minimum wage, clamp down on undocumented labor, watch the money all of a sudden flow out of the investment banks where it is right now,
Right.
And start swirling around the economy. Yes, it's going to create rampant inflation, but guess what? Inflation is another word for growth.
Right.
In a no
Markets love inflation.
Right.
Yeah.
So So
I would just throw out one more third leg
Yeah.
of this, which is why I believe the tax cut was thrown out first
Yeah.
to lower corporate tax rates. We have to repatriate money
Yes.
back into
Yes.
this country from
Yes.
these bullshit Ireland,
Yeah.
shell companies and all this where they hide all their money and all that. That's got to come back to the state.
Chris,
But
at the small business level,
What
we do
are
invest
you
funds.
mad at your iPhone right now?
Well, wait a second. I support Apple 1,000% for paying 8% tax in Ireland. Congratulations. I'm with you. I would do that too. My God. So let's again, we have the highest corporate tax rate in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe we lowered it and gave people an incentive to bring that money back. And I think it also has to come with a penalty if you do not,
Well,
to be
and
perfectly honest.
I think it's unfortunate that because Trump was first a businessman, everything goes back to what he's going to gain personally by doing anything. Right or wrong, I don't agree with how much he's going to save, but at the same time, we can't penalize the rest of the country because he's going to get something out of it too.
But you're cool
There's
with
nothing you
Obama
can do
getting
about it.
$400,000 to go give a speech to Wall Street where he's
Every
selling Wall Street
freaking
for-
president does that.
Wait
I
a
don't even
second.
want to talk about that.
No,
Well, you do need to talk about that because it is hypocrisy.
I don't think there is a difference in it.
There's a slight difference. That would be like me just going to whatever group I hated the most and slam for forever. Although, what you say publicly and privately are very different things, most likely.
Generally.
But,
I think
and then claiming
making money
$400,000
off of a
for an hour.
speech is completely different from years and
We're off
years
without
and
our
years
space right now.
of
Yeah.
tax breaks.
Wait, slow down, because
All I'm saying is that when the dude gets 60 million
We get
plus
that way
for
sometimes.
his book advance and he's getting $400,000 an hour to go talk to Wall Street people who he pretended
I
to hate
thought,
forever.
you know what?
And this isn't an anti-Obama
Again,
thing.
no,
I
but
thought Obama
again,
did a
right
great
or
job.
wrong, he's making money on his own. He's not writing tax reform that's going to benefit him.
That was one of the
But-
policies he put in place. It was, hey, if you're making a shit ton of amounts, give it
So,
stuff out
hey,
to everybody else.
let's shift focus here. Rather than getting into a giant ideologue fight, a la Tucker Carlson, Fox News, where
Sure.
everybody was screaming at each other.
Yay.
Oh, my
Almost.
voice is
Yeah.
louder.
So let's stop talking about what should be and let's start talking about what is.
Okay.
All right. So right now, tax reform's on the table. Okay, great. No mention of infrastructure. They're going to make another run at healthcare.
At healthcare, yeah.
What is a normal person to do to make sure that they don't get killed
in the next market correction. I mean, like,
Well, I agree with that, and I think that I think people are naturally if you're an everyday person, you're naturally risk averse. You know, you're naturally concerned about that, and I would have a tough have a real good conversation with clients about how to transition from kind of that accumulation phase and that thinking about markets are going to go higher to that preservation and needing income.
Sure.
You know, because we've got a whole lot of people over the age of 65. It's going to double in 10 years.
Yep.
I mean, those are things that you need to be thinking about. I'd say that regardless of the political scheme, markets revert back to the mean. And the farther we go higher, the farther we're going to go.
I think I got the best deal going of anybody, really, because I went through the recession.
Yeah.
I come out totally broke. I don't have investments. I work on cash. All I do is make money now. So
Pure independence.
you can't hurt me. I've already been hurt. You done tried to kill me once. You could have killed me, sorry bastards.
But
I'm still here.
You know, another big focus, and Lane, you might chime in here, are the millennials. I mean, this is a perfect time for them to be getting into the job market.
Yeah.
I mean, think about like how much money you could actually put into the markets with your 401k match and things like that.
Well, I can be put down Game Boy though.
They're
Oh yeah, that's
all
a
they're
whole
doing
other
is
story.
paying off student loans
Yeah.
right now and living with their folks.
So
Yeah, really.
what I think is interesting is Trump got crushed on the wall. That's not going to happen, right? He got his dick smashed on healthcare, right? And so now he's trotting out tax reform. It's like,
Healthcare has to
I
come
was
before
reading
tax
the
reform
first
makes
100
more.
days of his, and it said, I don't know that this is the reason that none of these are working, but he was saying they didn't realize what a black hole, what do they call them now, the Tea Party?
Yeah.
They're, whatever they're called now, they've changed their name.
First, so the
Caucus for Freedom.
Yeah, Freedom Caucus.
How much of a black hole they are, that they say that they want to help people, but all they do, whoever says whatever they want to say, they're totally against it, no matter who it is.
But you got to think that there's a lot. The way the Republican Party is structured right now, there's massive conservatives, and then you had people who were elected from moderate states. And there was a true fear, and Trump did nothing to quell this fear, that, oh, my new healthcare plan is going to fuck your Medicare and do all these other things. And if you're in a moderate state, Republican or not, you're not going with that. I mean, my God, imagine being a Republican from Florida and he comes out and goes, well, we might fuck with your Medicare a lot. And it's like,
Every successful president since Reagan has figured out how to triangulate both parties and rule from the middle.
Yeah.
Trump has swung so far to the right. It's like, how does he get back to the center without capitulating, like, on everything he said?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
How does he
And
do
that's a
that?
good question.
I think he was kind of on Paul Ryan to do it, to be perfectly honest, and Pence. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. These guys from the hardcore conservative states,
Excuse me.
in the moderate state, there's no chance. One of us is going to lose, and so we'll just stay divided.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
We'll vote together on the easy stuff. You want to put up a Supreme Court justice, great. Great guy.
So,
You know, who cares?
Yeah, I think I think the real question. I think you've asked the most important question is every president finds his way back to the middle because they come in. They've made a fair to massive, depending upon the candidate, amount of campaign promises that got them elected.
Right.
And then most of them realize none of this shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Or at least not most of it.
Yeah.
Not if I intend to actually govern.
Not as I envisioned it.
and I think it was worse for Trump because he hadn't been in that situation before. He never saw the political side of, oh shit, this is why it's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's
Boardroom
easy.
is nothing like the.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
nothing.
because he's the CEO. He
Yeah.
can when
You can unilaterally make a decision as a CEO.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, you know, it's funny. I was looking at the amount of executive orders that he's put forth as, and he's he's done more executive orders in his first 100 days than anybody in modern history.
Almost.
But
yeah.
But the thing that's kind of interesting to me is the executive order is really a suggestion because if Congress won't fund it,
The next president will wipe it out.
and it'll just sit dormant now because Congress won't fund it.
Which is what Obama wrote a bunch, so he's been canceling them out, and the next guy will cancel his out.
Exactly.
If he feels like
So, so what seems like Trump doing a lot of new laws has really not been laws. They've all been executive order.
This is a lack of just constitutional understanding in this country in general. We always vote for a president based on, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and blah, blah. Well, actually, the president has no authority to make a law, period, at all. A law, even if you go back to Schoolhouse Rock.
Well, which I was just about to say. I mean, Schoolhouse Rock tells you how a bill becomes a law. One of my favorite Schoolhouse Rocks. I am a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. That's just what it is.
Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger and Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers, 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do. Time to rejoin the conversation.
Hey, Trump, you gotta draw a circle, like a little red circle around the Freedom Caucus, and place them in the column as everybody that's following Bernie Sanders. In other words, there's no point even talking to them because there's no consensus building there. And
they want to destroy what is currently called government.
Right. And they're crazy. They're anarchists.
And yes,
I don't think all of
the
them
Freedom
are.
Caucus.
I don't think all of them are. I think that there is a legitimate concern amongst a lot of Republican congressmen in particular, because they have to run every 2 years.
Sure.
And we had this in Kansas forever.
Yeah.
We're a very red state, and yet we had Dennis Moore in there for 5 terms?
Right.
You know, he was there forever. Now imagine he goes off his rocker and starts voting super leftist on everything.
Right.
That dude's not getting reelected to dog catcher. You know, it's not going to happen.
I don't know. If I was Trump, I'd go to Schumer and be like, all right, here's the deal. I know Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to retire or kick the bucket in the next 3 years, so I'm going to let you pick her replacement in exchange for giving me tax reform.
And it's still a deal. I mean, it's still a deal.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of ways.
Come on, Mr. Dealmaker.
Yeah. I'm like,
right now,
You can't rule by fiat.
He hasn't shown a lot of willingness to make it.
Do you guys feel that Trump has any chance of being a successful president?
Fuck no.
No.
Not the way it's going right now. No.
not the way it's going.
Do you feel that Trump can be a successful president?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you. I don't know, man. I'm not into politics. You tell me.
I mean,
Actually, not the course
So you
he's
just
on
here to
right
talk
now.
about the money?
That's what it comes down to.
But he has evolved as he's kind of gone along a little bit, and he's come back. He's got his ass kicked. He's not afraid to come back and
I
say,
don't know.
"Okay, I got my ass kicked. Let's go ahead and."
But I don't know if he's evolved or his speechwriters have.
either way.
Or
he's
people that
become
are
very
keeping
presidential in his talk.
him contained.
I would throw who at this point
Because you
could
look
be
at his
a
tweets and
successful
they're not.
president. The way that the Congress and the Senate and everything is set up, who could actually be a successful president at this point in time? I don't.
Well,
I don't
and it's
know.
true
I don't
because
think
Congress is.
Yeah, I
It-
say we have hit.
No, I think that's his play. That's his ace in the hole. The more I play through it in my head, it's like you lose nothing by swapping an ultra-liberal with an ultra-liberal, right?
Yeah.
However, the Democrats have everything to lose if Trump goes, all right, here's the deal. You saw what we did for for Gorsuch, I'm going to let you pick her seat, but you got to give me X, Y, and Z in terms of signature legislative.
That's the deal.
Yeah, I mean, but
Or
now
if
that
you-
is making a deal.
Or if you want to fight me on that, I'm going to shape the Supreme Court for the next 40 fucking years. So, what do you want
So
to
what do
do?
you want to do?
But imagine,
You also have
imagine
Souter in
explaining
play
that
here,
to your
too.
constituents.
What's that?
Really?
Imagine explaining that to your constituents.
What do you mean?
I'm saying when you're that congressman who goes back to run
Right.
in about a year and a half
Right.
now, you know every commercial that's going to be on the air.
Right.
And it's not going to be that, oh, no, we reached a compromise and we
Right. I
and
know.
it was great.
Yeah.
You know, most people don't want horse
That's
racing
the
anymore.
major
They don't
problem
want
in
it anymore.
politics right
Well,
now.
They want you to
Reagan-
stick to the
I don't think it's just Trump.
Reagan-
I think it really is.
It's
all
a
of
major
it.
problem with politics.
Reagan had this issue in '87 with that Borkman
Yeah.
guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Bork.
So Borkman was a sacrificial lamb to get the guy he really. Anyway,
No, that's a good
you
point.
got to
It's not
put a
about-
red herring out there to show the political theater, and then you find a moderate in who's
still
really
had-
a screaming liberal.
But you also still had Tip O'Neill back in '86.
Right.
And
Who
you
would cut a deal?
And you had Bob Dole.
Yeah.
I mean, you had both of those guys who were running their respective minority
David
majority.
One of my mentors told me he's passed now. His name is Bob Priest, and I'm sure he didn't make this up, but he said that we often overestimate what we can get done in 5 or 10 years, and underestimate what we can do over 20 or 30 or 40 years.
Right.
And so I would think, in terms of the state of America, we're expanding.
Right.
Technology is growing. We're having new ideas. A lot of, this is one of the best places in the world.
We're
to
still
live.
America.
We're still America.
Oh, yeah.
And so the micro is kind of chaotic, but on a macro level, 50,000 foot view, we're still going higher. So that would be my
So I just read a huge article about how, and I would have agreed with you up until a couple of years back. That's when China was just stealing everything we did and making it a little bit cheaper and doing that kind of stuff. And every indication from China is that they are becoming far more innovative in terms of not just copying what we do and making it again, but in actually thinking of the things first and putting them out there.
Yeah.
Alibaba being the dude who started Alibaba being a great example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's amazing. And that's not just being a follower and, robbing people blind and stealing their patents and ignoring international law. He's actually being super innovative, in what he's doing. And it's incredible. And that is going to be a major, major problem.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I got
Alright,
to
so,
pick
yeah,
up
but
the mob. So something after that I knew you would have on topic today.
Yes.
And it's jumping around to the last one, which is the public reaction to AKA resist. And I found this rather fascinating about how many people, with Berkeley in particular, I mean, that's the easiest one to throw out there, with the free speech, and Bill Maher coming out and calling them a bunch of crybabies. And of course, and then you got the other side doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, because they did not want Ann Coulter to speak on
They
campus.
didn't want Ann Coulter to speak on campus, and it goes back to Condoleezza Rice at Rutgers. She's been a great speaker for them, where they don't want to hear this other opinion one way or the other. And it's very interesting to me how people on both sides of the fence are coming out and going, whoa, this is bullshit. You guys are off the chart. This goes back to almost the black shirt guys that come in with their hoods on and everything else. That goes in, brown shirts for Nazis a little bit, to where they shut down free speech and they started burning. I know that's extreme.
Everybody ignores Berkeley.
But this is the problem, though, Chris, is that they are coming in and saying you can't talk, and that is not America. That is not America. We can sit on this panel. The beauty of this panel is that we can sit on this panel and we can talk about anything.
It's also
and
America.
this is not happening at universities anymore.
It is
Chris.
America to protest enough to say we don't want this person on our campus. And come on, picking Berkeley, that was stupid. And to draw a comparison in my mind between the validity of Condoleezza Rice going to give a speech and Ann Coulter going to give a speech.
Oh, there's
is
huge
like,
difference.
that's
There's
like
huge
Susie
difference.
Sales versus
Right.
George Washington talking on the same subject.
But that doesn't
There's
matter who
nonsense.
it does somewhat matter who it is, but at the same time, it's still the same principle.
I'm not going to let any moron and she truly is a moron. Let's be honest about it.
I think the one thing that they did wrong, though, was they should have let her decide. They said they canceled it for her safety because it was such a protest. But at the same time, shouldn't you be the one to decide if you want to do that?
Why? I mean, personally,
how-
just protest.
What's
I
your
mean,
opinion
just
of that?
Just
book
that's the problem.
book
Just
the
protest.
speech. Book the
You
speech.
think that she should?
And then if you really disagree on that, I mean, this is just the way I feel about it. Book the speaker, and if you really don't want to hear what the speaker has to say,
Don't show up.
don't show up,
or
or just
the way you're
protest the way you're
supposed
supposed to protest.
They did $100,000 worth of damage when Milo was there. $100,000 worth
If
of
you were
damage.
Berkeley, I want to meet the
Come
dude
on.
who thought anybody at Berkeley wants to hear Angle for 1 second and decided to go ahead and book it. I mean,
Yeah.
you are
Well,
a moron.
yes.
I mean, at some
Well,
point,
they
know your
did
audience.
have a student group there that booked her though, Chris.
Yeah, about 4 Republicans.
Well, that may
were
be,
hanging
but-
out in
but
bow
they-
ties.
but nonetheless-
That's about it.
But nonetheless,
Yeah,
they
there is
they
kind
did
of a
book
know
her.
your audience.
They did book her. So
Booker at UCLA, Booker at USC. Great.
not the same problem.
Well, I kind of agree with Chris to a degree. Is if you know your audience, you would know that the Berkeley audience does not want to sit through an Ann Coulter speech. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't look. You voted for Trump. I don't think you want to sit through an Ann Coulter speech. It's just like you say, she spews about as much hate as I've heard any one person spew, and I don't know. And so I'm not mad at any organization or any college not wanting her to speak, but I do agree that since this is America, you book the speaker, and if you don't want to hear her speak, don't go.
But that's how she made her money too. And this is the Coulter personality nowadays. If you can go out and throw firebombs and makes X amount of dollars off throwing firebombs, that's
And
how
who
she
do you
made her
think- who
money.
do you think
I'm not
started
saying
that?
I think that's a good thing, but I think it's a real thing.
I think I would rather share a non-alcoholic beverage with Glenn Beck.
That would be rough.
Woo, that would be rough.
I also think there's
Does it have to be
there's an
non-alcoholic?
obligation to say we're an institution of higher learning, and
Well,
we're
it has to be
not gonna
non-alcoholic for him
Yeah, really. Can I have an alcoholic beverage though? Because
beforehand.
Bring in Nikki Haley. Bring in somebody else. Bring in somebody who has some real credentials.
all right, podcast land. We got to say goodbye to Big Dave. He's got things to do.
Good to see
Gotta
you.
pick up the mom from the airport.
All right.
God help me if I'm late.
Have fun.
All right. So, with all that said, and Big Dave coming in to throw his bombs, let's see if we can't get this back onto the track of. Okay, so I was going to talk a little bit about some of the campaign promises, but I think we know enough about what the campaign promises were during Trump's run. But I do want to talk about some of the things that 28 bills that Trump has signed into law. So S-544 is a bill to amend the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act of 2014 to modify the termination date of the Veterans Choice Program and for other purposes. We had H.R. 353, Weather Research and Forecasting Innovation Act of 2017. I'm going to read these as quickly as possible, but I do want to talk about them because I think some of the names are a little deceptive to what these bills actually were. S-442, National Aeronautics and Space Administration Transition Authorization Act of 2017. H.R. 72, the GAO Access and Oversight Act of 2017. Then there was a bunch of stuff repealing Obama-era rules. HS 67, disapproving the rules submitted by the Department of Labor relating to savings arrangements established by qualified state political subdivisions for non-government employees. HJ 43, providing the congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5. Lots of boring language. HS 69, providing congressional disapproval under Chapter 8. The final rule of the Department of the Interior relating to non-substance take of wildlife in public participation and closure procedures on national wildlife refuges in Alaska. I'm gonna stop right there because there's, like I said, there's a list of them. There's 28. What I did seem to find going through them is that either the titles were either a little deceptive, to say the least, what they were supposed to do, or they don't really do much of anything. I'm like, so, you know, with all of these bills that he signed into law, what has he actually done?
Well, I would make the same argument that everybody names their laws the best name they can come up with, and I'm sure they focus group and think they're good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, this goes way back. I remember when they passed the Jim Brady gun control law. Well, there were already, 30-something odd rules on the books that would have prevented the exact same crime, so they did nothing. You know, they tied it into a guy who, suffered a true tragedy, but, they didn't enforce all the other 30-plus laws that are on the books. I mean, it's not that there's not laws for a lot of these things. It's that a lot of them already exist. Do I think he's done a lot? No. I don't know what you think about the redo of the VA stuff. I thought it was semi-interesting, but I think it's minor. And I think the guy he put on board seems to kind of have an idea of what he's doing, and I'm okay with protecting whistleblowers, I get that, but I also think there's room for abuse in that too. Because what you're going to see is somebody go, man, my boss is an asshole, I'm whistleblowing big time, Right. That's the inevitable flip side of every time you try to do something like this. It'll just, who knows? These things play out over time. Do I think the names are dumb? Of course. I feel like every name of every law was dumb. The New Deal. Really? That was just Teddy Roosevelt's
the 10
stuff that you stole.
Not the Ten Commandments. Not the Ten Commandments.
Are they suggestions? That would have been a way better way to do it. Moses' suggestions coming down from the mountain, SR 913. It would have been awesome.
Oh my God.
But, I mean, it just gets a little ridiculous. Yeah, the names are stupid, but they have marketing people to do that stuff. Yeah. It's their point. But do I think anything has been majorly accomplished? No, it's been 100 days.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that your first 100 days, yes, you can set a lot of stuff into action. The effects of it don't come into play for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking at the White House's website because I wanted to see what the Trump administration thought they did.
Right.
So first, very big and bold, first thing, over 500,000 new jobs.
Most of those are in the resistment.
Wait. Now, here's what's funny, and I think ties directly into what you said with a surge in female employment in the last month, which
so prostitutes and
which gets back to the first big protest, the Women's March. So I thought that was hilarious that one of the first things he touts is that a lot of women got hired, but at the same time, the biggest protest to date was the Women's March the day after he got elected. And who's to say that didn't have something to do with with some of those women getting jobs.
He needs to avoid women's issues. That's all they
CNN
got.
had a first 100 days. They were talking about, one of the reporters did it, but they were talking to, some of the White House staff and some of the Republican people that, were there, and they were all anonymous.
Always are.
But they were talking about just how, like the Women's March. I find it very hard to believe that he couldn't hear the Women's March, but other people in the White House could. And
He went to Florida for that.
they made a comment about, no, he was there in the White House the day that they marched.
Well, a lot of people routinely dogged on that march just in general because, one, there wasn't a clear-cut agenda really, and then a lot of the speakers that they picked just said a shit ton of nonsense. I mean, I think a lot of people lost a lot of respect for the Madonnas and Katy Perry's of the world following that. They didn't do themselves any favors. Have an agenda. Like, I like when people have an agenda and march for an organization. If you just want to go,
They
I'm
had
a
an
woman, so
agenda.
let's do something. It wasn't very spelled out. It wasn't very specific.
Well, that's a whole nother, we've had that
Certainly wasn't
conversation.
actionable. I mean, what actionable things did you want to happen? I mean, just to go, I'm a woman, so I'm going to march. That's what 99% of those people were doing. I don't like Trump. I'm a woman, and I voted Democrat, so I'm going to go march.
Well,
Plus, I want to see Katy Perry.
no,
She's
that's
hot.
not. That's a whole nother conversation. It's going to take up a long time, so we'll have that off the podcast. We've talked about it many times on here.
So let me keep going down the White House list. He did approve the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone Pipeline.
But those have been around forever.
Exactly.
You might even give him some credit for that. That's a pretty debatable thing.
He rolled back job-killing anti-coal regulations, which is
Oh,
hilarious.
so job killing.
As if coal miners are going, yeah, I want to get back in that dark tunnel. Hell yeah. That's not happening. I'm sorry.
I think that was a nod to the steel lobby.
As in Mitch McConnell be my friend.
Yeah.
Please. And I'm going to name your wife to my cabinet.
Whoops.
Another of the executive orders, the Buy American, Hire American executive order. And then he immediately bought the steel for said pipelines from someplace other than America. That's
And his hat. I mean, that's the bad thing. Like you're all about America, but then you don't even make sure your own shit is American.
I think that's such a mistake. This whole Buy American thing drives me bananas. I think as a global economy, why on earth would I want to pay triple for something because we have ridiculous labor laws in this country and stupid unions and all these other things? I mean, my God, we really do. It's just a joke. Wait, do you know how much it would cost if really we just bought only stuff in America? It would be so astronomically expensive. It would be nonsense.
I don't necessarily agree with that because isn't like the general.
Let me finish this one.
All right.
Also, by buying from other countries, we're supporting a global economy, which is what we need to maintain stability,
I get
somewhat
that.
of stability in this world. Do you really want
I
to
mean,
pay
there
triple
are
for everything
some
you're
things
buying?
that we can't get here that we do have to buy from another country. But I don't know.
Can I jump off the deep end here?
I don't think I agree with that comment.
If you're on the end of the plank and you want to jump,
Yeah, I need to jump off deep. I'm gonna blow some minds. All right. Is your money a monetary unit of value or a monetary unit of debt?
I know that everybody in podcast land would like to believe of value.
No. Your money is a promissory note from the central bank. It's debt. You don't have money. You have debt. That's exactly what it is. But where I'm going with this is international trade. Is that valued in U.S. dollars? No. Oil, right? Oil's one thing that matters.
Yeah.
The Forex market, right? The commodities market. Right. I don't care about Forex, right? What I'm getting at is, so every other currency trades relative to ours, right? And the primary commodities of the economy are denominated in U.S. dollars, right? Okay. So what I'm getting at is this whole buy American, hire American. It honestly, it's like the worst thing in the world. I actually really, really like the idea of paying for foreign shit. I like our imbalance of trade, right? Our budget, our trade deficits. The reason why is the more money that we owe foreign nations, the less likely they are to go to war with us, right? And the more likely they are to do whatever we say because they want to get paid.
That was exactly my point. You have to maintain global stability by buying foreign products. You have to at this point. I mean, do you know how many countries we would put under if we stopped buying their assets?
Oh, absolutely.
It would be ridiculous.
No,
You know, I think it's interesting. Even Trump, has said that he had no idea how hard his job was. I really
think
believe
that's the first honest thing he said.
Yeah, and I really, not only do I believe that he had no idea how hard his job was, but I do believe that it's only going to get harder because you've only been there 100 days, and we've joked about this, but I really do believe it's true. I think he wanted the job because for the same reason you want a promotion. It looks really good on your resume, and you get paid a little more because you've got a new position on your resume. But I have no faith that he actually wanted the job, nor wanted to do the job, because I think anybody who actually wants the job would have known that anytime you get a man in office, even one as young as President Obama, and you go from a head of black hair with a few grays to a complete head of white hair in 8 years.
Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party.
Can't possibly think this isn't the most stressful job on the planet of Earth.
So think about what most presidents do when they retire or when their term or terms end. What is he going to do? Is he going to go back to trying to run a business? And I mean, he's not going to retire to the countryside and do a nonprofit and build a library. I mean,
He'll build a library.
He's not going to. Somebody will do it for him.
Well, every president has somebody build one for him.
Yes, but I don't picture him even caring.
I don't know. I think he's egotistical enough to think that what he's done has been accomplishments, and he wants them recorded. And I think he does care more than anything. What I do think is he only cares about what he cares about, which is a little bit different.
But how do you picture him retiring from office?
Well, it depends on how old he is.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm just. I pictured Trump trying to retire and go painting or some shit. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, maybe honestly, for all the crap that George Bush got when he was in office, the junior. Maybe he did it the right way. I mean, maybe he did it in the classiest, coolest way that you can do it. He shut his mouth.
He should have an apprentice for the Republican candidate that runs after him.
Oh my God!
That's how they make it.
That's golden, man.
Right. That's how you figure out who the Republican nominee is going to be. Just the apprentice.
Sadly, he can't even keep that going.
It was all Arnold Schwarzenegger's fault. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let Donald Trump tell it. Oh, my goodness. All right, so we've kind of touched on just about everything that I had down that I wanted to touch on. We didn't...
I have one last question.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. And it's just, this could just be a yes or no.
Yeah.
And it's, do you think he even finishes his first term?
Oh, yeah, he does.
I think he will.
I think he does not.
You don't think so?
I do not.
I think he has like a medical.
I think
Issue,
Russia will be
a
his
contrived
downfall. If
medical
anything,
issue.
will be.
I think his Russian problems are going to come back and haunt him big time.
You think he'll get impeached for real?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I think they're trying to very hard.
I
And he's starting to. They're asking for information, and he's starting to refuse to give it to him. I mean, and I don't care who you are. That's against the law.
Well, no, it's not actually. It's Nixon. You can try to defend certain things, and you have a right to a lawyer and say no. I don't have to turn all these things over to you. That is one of the things that you do as president. And say no. Not everything falls in the Freedom of Information Act. That's incorrect.
But it was information before he became president.
Doesn't matter. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what they give up and don't give up. I think he just has a major problem there. I think it's going to.
I honestly think that Russia is going to be his. He's been able to kind of skirt everything else, but Russia just keeps coming back
I think
around.
he could stymie that and achieve the holy grail of growth by tying a living wage, which is the holy grail of democratic politics, to tax reform, and sell it under the guise of being revenue neutral. Right, because we're lowering taxes, but by raising the minimum wage, right, there's a larger tax base to be taxed, right? He would have one that would win over the public, because the minimum wage public, the Democratic core would be cheering, shit, I'm making more money, and the Republican core would be cheering, fuck, I'm not paying as much taxes, and then Congress would be in a pinch, like, we can't impeach this guy, we'll get our heads handed to us.
I think if you looked at all the accomplishments and people ignore the accomplishments that Nixon did while he was in office, because he actually had quite a few that were really, really, really good policies.
Sure.
Still got impeached.
Well, he was a dickhead. I mean, that's what it came down to. He was an asshole, and he got punished.
And I feel it's going to come out that Trump's just about the same dude.
Or, I'm sorry, what was that movie, the politics terrorism movie, The Puppets, Team America?
Team America.
Yeah, assholes get fucked, because if the assholes don't get fucked, they shit over everything, right?
Still a great line. Those dudes, some of my favorite writers in the world.
Okay.
True.
All right. So before we move on, is there anything else that anybody wants to add about the first 100 days? Or I kind of agree. I don't know if he's going to make it through all 4 years. I really kind of give him 2, to tell you the truth. Because one, I think the Rush thing is not dying, and I think he thought he was going to be able to skirt it the way he skirted everything else, but the Russia thing's not dying. And then 2, I don't know if he's ever actually looked at the Constitution, and I think there's enough things that he's doing or attempting to do that aren't constitutional that will give anybody who wants to impeach him the ammunition to do so. Now, I do agree that if he's smarter than he looks, he will do exactly what Lane said, and he will raise minimum wage as he's doing this this adjustment to taxes, and that will buy him his full term. But my next question, or I should say my last question, is: do we think, if he does all this,
Right.
is this it? Is this the term? The 4 years of Trump, or even with it?
I think it depends on if we have another war, because they almost never change presidents during the wartime.
If he makes it past year 2, I see him getting us into a war almost purely to stay president because, nobody gets voted out
I think
during
at the
wartime.
rate he's going, he's going to piss off
Somebody.
North Korea. And
I think you can use the same argument about Clinton and Yugoslavia in '98, which just happened to coincide with the Monica Lewinsky debacle. And maybe that was a very lovely diversion that got thrown out there. As
Yeah.
a
I
video
think Trump's going to
actually.
usher in an era of actual old school deal making compromise because we're at the point now where it can't get any more polarized.
Right.
And if we don't start making shit happen, like we run the risk of being ruined. So
yeah.
Now,
It's
you know
weird-
what?
It's weird to do that when you're telling everybody that you're drawing a hard line in the sand.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't do both at the
I
same
don't
time.
know. He can't. No, he's going to be the Nixon of our era. Just watch.
Yeah.
I agree 1,000%.
So actually, I lied. I do have one more question. So, watching all of the political commentary from both sides of the fence, to tell you the truth, one question keeps, or one comment keeps coming up, and I was curious what the panel thought about it, and that is even though it feels like the worst thing in the moment, could Trump possibly be the best thing that has happened to American politics in a while? Because we've actually woken up the American electorate from its slumber.
I think the next election will not presidential election.
Yeah,
but-
next congressional
Yeah,
election.
I think that'll really answer that question. Because we may be awoke now, but who's to say we're going to be, next year?
But don't you feel like in a weird way, and I would say no for this reason, if you awaken too many people, because it's not like there's an agreed upon ideology that just sits out in the world and he's ignoring it.
True.
Right.
I mean, he's awoken every side in the world.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now it's going to be interesting to go, okay, I think the polarization gets worse, which again, I don't particularly mind. I'd rather they do nothing, as you guys know. But having said that, if you awaken every single interest group in the entire world, and it's the way the media does make it sound, and this is maybe, I can't believe I'm saying I agree with Big Dave on this just a little bit, but
He's going to hear this.
I know.
Dave.
He is right. If you just watch TV, you would think that every single person in the world hates Trump and they all want him gone. And that is not really the way that is going down in the real world.
This is true.
And so that's what's slightly alarming me. You are having polarized lines drawn even within the Republican Party. You certainly are going to have them on the Democratic side. They're already there, and they have been there for years. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I don't think 80% or 90% of the world's against him, and only my old parents are the ones who still like Trump and are hanging on by a thread.
I don't agree with that
I
either.
think there's a hell of a lot of people that are still out there who are supporting this, who are rallying behind it.
I think Trump should start publicly crushing the balls of the Freedom Caucus and George Soros. And watch and attack him from both sides and force him to box
See what
in the
happens?
middle. Yeah.
You might legitimately see it. The one thing that you may legitimately see come out of this is a true third party.
Which, to tell you the truth,
Which would not-
That's
if
not
I
a
have
bad thing.
if I have any
For the
hope,
American people.
if I have any hope, that is my hope that we get a true and viable third party born from this chaos, because we are polarized, but I do think there's a section in the middle that you may lean Republican or you may lean Democratic, but really, I think there's a section in the middle of people that really are looking for the same things, and but they aren't represented, and I think that's really where the anger comes from,
And I would argue that there's a lot of people who don't feel represented by either party, but they don't agree with each other either. And
True.
so uniting those disenfranchised people to get behind one platform.
One platform.
That's going to be tough because the reasons they don't agree with each other are diametrically opposite in a lot of ways.
Very true.
You know, and that's where I think it's going to be hard to actually. This has always been the hard part about a third party. Yeah, there's a lot of people who hate both Republicans and Democrats, but they don't agree with each other either.
Yeah.
You know, so to get them to vote as a voting bloc is almost impossible.
Yeah, but I say you almost need two new parties to pop up. In which case,
I don't know.
In which case that just muddies the water even further. But before I do what I do on every podcast, since Cam does not normally come and sit with us, and I know you kind of purposefully don't follow politics, but you do follow the money. You have anything else to say about what the possibilities of the money happening in the next few years?
I think that my opinion is that this current presidency has put people in a position to realize that it's on them. You know, you're going to always have different political views and things like that, but at the end of the day, your dreams and your goals don't have anything to do with politics. So I think that that's probably the biggest lesson that I've seen just from a little bit that I've looked at. In terms of money, I think that if you have a 30-year time horizon, that this is one of the best times ever to be looking at finding things to buy when the markets come down, to invest in quality companies that you think is going to be in the future. Things are changing, technology's taking over, the internet, the way we communicate. There's a lot of things there that can be bought for very cheap when things revert back. And so I don't think that it's on any president or any political engine to promote prosperity for a person at the micro level. I think at the micro level it's on you, and at the macro it makes itself up. We're global, man. It doesn't matter if we're in America or in China or wherever the thing is. We're all connected, and it's on your individual choices as to how you're going to be able to build wealth into the future.
Okay. I think that is as good a place to leave it as any. And with that, I'm going to...
Smooth Cam.
From the heart. That was from the heart.
Yeah.
Mayor of Kansas City.
What'd you say?
You should be mayor of Kansas City.
I'm a capitalist.
So is Sly.
Hey.
Tell him I said hi.
All right, so with that, I'm going to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.
All right. Cheers.